Have you ever just stared at one of those incredible British garden borders? The ones that are just exploding with color and texture and thought, how do they even do that? Well, what looks like a wild, beautiful mess is actually the total opposite. It's a seriously complex, highly engineered system. And in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and show you the genius behind it all.
And this quote really just nails it. This isn't just about sticking some pretty flowers in the ground. No, the classic border is where hard science smacks right into high art. You got to think of it like a living sculpture, planned with the precision of an architect, but painted with the soul of an artist.
So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How on earth do they get that look of effortless, overflowing abundance? Well, it turns out there really is a blueprint, a kind of secret recipe that gardeners have been perfecting for ages. And today, we're going to share it with you.
All right, so to really get the magic, you have to start with the bones, the architecture of the thing. The structure of a great garden border is as deliberate as the foundation of a house. And you know where it all starts? With scale.
And boom, here's the first big surprise. The ideal depth for a pro-level border isn't just a few feet. It's a whopping 15 to 20 feet deep. That's like 5 or 6 meters. Now, that might sound crazy, but that massive depth is the key. It's what lets you create those rich, complex layers that give you that signature look. Anything less, and it doesn't have the same punch.
And check this out. These are pretty much the non-negotiables. The length has to be at least 5 times the depth, so it actually feels like a border and not just a flower bed. You need a solid background, like a dark yew hedge, that makes all the colors pop. And that crisp edge, that's the picture frame. It makes the whole thing look deliberate and beautiful, even when the plants start to spill over, which is exactly what you want.
So once you have the structure, then it's time for the really fun part, the artistry. Layering is the absolute core technique that turns a flat patch of dirt into a three-dimensional living painting. It's all about creating a sense of depth and movement.
Now, the traditional way to do it is kind of like setting up a choir. You've got your tall singers in the back, those big architectural plants like delphiniums that anchor the whole thing. Then in the middle, you've got your soloists, the powerhouse bloomers like salvia and echinacea. And right up front, you've got the plants that soften the edges and spill onto the path like geraniums. It creates this classic, beautiful staircase effect.
But, and this is a big but, if you just follow that simple staircase model, things can look a little boring, a little stiff. The real masters, the pros, they know exactly when and how to break those rules to create something that feels truly alive.
And one of their best secrets is something called the Scrim effect. The name actually comes from the theater, where a scrim is a see-through curtain. In the garden, you use a tall, airy, almost transparent plant like Verbena bonariensis. And here's the trick. You plant it in the middle or even the front. It creates this incredible, mysterious veil that you have to look through, and it instantly adds layers of depth and makes the whole thing feel wonderfully spontaneous. It's just magic.
Okay, so having a stunning design is one thing, but keeping it looking that good all season long, well, that takes some serious insider knowledge. We're not talking about your basic weekend tips here. These are straight-up pro-level hacks.
First on the list is the brilliantly named Chelsea chop. And yeah, it gets that name because it's done around late May, right when the famous Chelsea flower show is happening. It's basically a simple, but let's be honest, kind of brutal-looking haircut for certain plants.
So why would you do this? Well, the benefits are huge. It keeps tall plants from flopping over after a heavy rain. It can actually delay their flowering by a few weeks, which extends your season. And best of all, it forces the plant to bush out and produce way more flowers. So the lesson here is a little bit of strategic toughness in May gives you a way better show in August.
And then there's staking. We've all seen it, right? Those gardens that look like they're in traction with all these ugly green canes and bits of string everywhere. The goal for a pro is to make the support totally invisible. They use natural, twiggy branches and stick them in the ground early, so the plants just grow up right through them, hiding the structure completely. Some even use a secret weapon, this super strong, dark nylon filament that you literally cannot see.
So everything we've talked about so far has been the classic playbook, but over the last few years, there's been a massive revolution in gardening. The whole philosophy is shifting from trying to create a living painting to actually cultivating a living, breathing ecosystem.
And you can really see the difference right here. The classic style, perfected by people like Gertrude Jekyll, was all about planting in big blocks of color for one big wow moment in summer. This new approach, led by Pete Udolph, is totally different. It blends plants together in a matrix.
The focus isn't just on summer flowers anymore. It's about having interest all 4 seasons, and it's way more sustainable. Instead of bare soil and mulch, the ground is covered by a living mulch of plants that help stop weeds.
To really wrap your head around this matrix planting, Udolf has this fantastic fruitcake metaphor. Just imagine a low layer of grasses and sedges. That's the cake batter, the dough that holds everything together. Then, you scatter your big, colorful flowers throughout it, like the nuts and fruits in the cake. See? It's not about separate clumps anymore. It's about one interwoven community of plants working together.
And the ecological payoff here is enormous. This whole approach slashes the time you spend weeding and watering. It creates a diverse, resilient plant community that's way better for pollinators. And by leaving the seed heads standing through the winter, the garden provides food and shelter for wildlife when there's nothing else around. It's a win for the gardener and a huge win for the environment.
So where is all this headed? Well, the garden border is still evolving, and now it's adapting to the really big challenges of our time, especially climate change. It's not just about looking pretty anymore. It's about being resilient. And the look for 2025 totally reflects that. We're seeing more wild, maximalist designs with clashing colors and fluid shapes. There's a big move toward earthy, chocolatey browns and soft pastels. And this is cool, the rise of ornamentals, plants that are both beautiful and edible. But maybe the biggest change is that gardens are becoming intentionally less tidy, all to help out local wildlife.
So really, the new goal is a mix of everything we've seen. It's about creating a border that is, yes, absolutely beautiful, but also one that's smart, sustainable, doesn't need a ton of water, and is actually a functioning, contributing member of its local ecosystem.
Which kind of leaves us with this one big question to chew on. As we look to the future, are we moving away from the idea of a garden as just a static picture we admire from a distance? And are we instead starting to embrace it as a dynamic, living ecosystem that we, and all the critters around us, can actually be a part of? It's a pretty powerful shift to think about.